D'accord.
Salut à tous, Philippe Axmann de l'équipe Axis et aujourd'hui on est au boot de Düsseldorf avec Adrian Roper, le patron et fondateur de Axis. Donc on va en profiter pour lui poser quelques questions et faire un petit tour de la gamme avec lui. Hi Adrian.
Howdy.
Cool to see you here. And we will do a little tour of the range with you.
Let's do it. Yep. Since it's an indoor event here with the pool and everything, we'll start with the Dockstart board. So this is a board that's made actually in a very similar construction to the wings. It's a CNC cut PET foam core, and it's pre-preg carbon construction. Very light, very, very strong, very durable. It's a really good shape for Dockstart pump. It's thicker where the boxes attach here to make a very stable platform so that when you're pumping, you're not getting flex and losing energy in the board. Slight concave, so you've got a good contact with your feet on the board.
So you have your feet a bit lower too when you
Yep.
pump.
It's the deck is actually pointed down slightly, so it's like on the deck it's slightly lower than the rocker would have you on the bottom. So, yeah, that's been a great board and nice
Two
solid
versions,
construction.
fiberglass version and carbon version, which
Yep.
is this one.
So this is the new Axis Blast board. We had the Froth before that, and that was a great board, worked really, really well. This is kind of the next evolution of that. For the same volume, they're around 4 inches longer and a little bit narrower. And the reasoning behind that is to make a board that tracks a bit better and runs a bit better. A lot of the wings that we've got now are higher aspect, and for a higher aspect wing you need a little more runway speed to get going. So these boards work really well with the more modern foils. The construction is PVC sandwich on the bottom here, and on the deck it's a PVC sandwich through the deck area. They have a PVC block on the bottom with carbon patches, so that the boxes are very strong. They're actually attached by PVC rails to the deck, and the whole deck being a PVC sandwich, it gives a really efficient transfer of your pumping and through to the foil. So
That's cool.
solid, nice board.
Yeah.
This is a 75 litre, and this one's 5.3 by 21. The range goes from 55 litres right up to, I think, 125. I'm not actually sure on the bigger one, yeah.
It's already modern shapes.
Yep,
That's great.
yep. This is the 90 litre hybrid. Now, this board is 510 by 21, and it's a hybrid board, so it kind of sits in between the full-on downwind boards and the blast boards. It's a bit longer and a bit narrower, and it's really, really good for really light winds winging, for getting up and going. The bigger versions of this are really nice for paddling as well, for subfoiling in waves.
Waves, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, a narrow platform in the bottom there with the V in it, and that allows it to again to track really well when you're trying to get up to speed, either paddling or with a wing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a quite a different shape than the blast.
Yeah.
It looks about the same. There's quite a little detail inside.
Similar characteristics to a lot of the downwind boards. It's when you're submerged, standing on it, the bit that's under the water is narrow and tracks really well. So it doesn't skate around on the water. It allows you to get wound up and get going with it with speed.
Great.
Like the blast, all carbon PVC construction. Yeah. Here we have the new Frank board. We're gonna bring it right forward to here.
Yes.
So this is a board. This is a collaboration between Axis and Frank Maffei. Frank's based in Maui, and he's been building boards for a long while and getting quite a following in Maui and Oahu with his downwind boards. This is Frank, F-R-A-N-K. Need to point that out. A lot of people don't seem to get that until they see it. Once you've seen it, you're done. So met Frank in June in Maui, and one of our team riders was already riding his board, and it was a beautiful looking board, and I really admired it. And a lot of our team riders rode the board and really liked it as well. And it just seemed like a great idea to work with Frank to take Frank boards to the world. So I took Frank to China, and we built a bunch of boards there, and they came out really good. He was blown away at the end of it how good the quality was, since we're only there for 1 week. So that was really cool. Key things about this board: this is the 120 litre version. It's 8'6" by 17 inches wide, and 17 inches, it's relatively narrow compared to a lot of boards of that literage. I've done quite a few demos around the world on it, and I've had a lot of other riders coming from their normal board, which is, I don't know, let's say 8'6" by 20 or 19 inches wide, and they've ridden this 17-inch board with a bit of trepidation that it's going to be difficult to stand on. But they've actually come back in and said that was actually easier to ride. So I think one of the key things about the Frank boards that makes them so stable at the narrow width they are is you can see the change in direction in the back of it here. There's quite a kink just behind the boxes there, and even the deck lifts up. And the easiest, how I've been explaining it to people is a lot of the boards are very, very parallel in outline and parallel in rocker, and essentially they're like a log in the water. And you know, if you cut a length of wood and spin it in the water, it'll just spin forever. If you cut that log and bend a big angle into it, it gives it stability, and it means that it's very hard to turn over in the water. So it's very, very stable. And the kick in the tail as you're paddling for takeoff, it also means that as you start to lift off, you're not digging the tail and stopping your momentum to run forward. So really, really good.
That's
for
what makes the stability of this board.
Yep, really good for downwind. Another key feature is the deck. Although it's narrow, only 17 inches, the deck is slightly concave, but it's very flat, almost to the very edge, which means when you're standing on it, you've got quite a bit of area to stand on for control. A lot of boards, the rail starts dropping away too close to the rail. So very, very solid platform to stand on. Slightly cut away through the deck area there as well. Frank could probably tell you a whole lot more about it if he was here, but really nice board.
We've made already a whole video on the board, and that you can find out on the channel, and you keep going to see this board every time because it's fantastic. Yeah,
everyone that's demoed one has ended up buying one, so it's fairly good. The other thing I should mention with it is the board bag that comes with it. Comes with a really nice board bag. So this is the board bag that comes with it, and it also comes with a nose cone and a tail cone for extra protection. So you can travel with it easily, and it'll handle that. So going back to covering the lamination and what makes it so solid, you see the boxes here. There's a PVC block that comes along here, and you can kind of see the line of it. Comes up like this, and that's 30mm thick PVC block with the rails that go through the deck and bond onto the PVC sandwich on the deck. So it makes a very, very solid connection. It's got one layer of carbon on the bottom here, and then you can see a second layer, and then you can see a third layer of patching. It also has these rail bands, so an extra layer of carbon that wraps around here. So it actually ends up with 5 layers of carbon on the rail here where you're whacking it with your paddle, and on the nose and tail up to 8 layers. Wow. So it's strong where it needs to be strong, and light where you can get away with it.
You need rail saver.
Yeah, they're pretty tough through here.
Yeah. I couldn't ding my Frank board. I didn't put any rail saver on it, and after 3 months, hit sometimes very hard the board. No one ding inside, so very strong. We
set up a demo one with one of the shops in Australia, and they'd had it for about a month, and I rang and checked in with them, and they said that it's been out just about every day. Everyone's loved the board, but they said what was really impressive is after a month of people beating on it, it was still in really, really good nick. And a lot of their other boards wouldn't stand up to that. All the boards, like this is 120 litres and it's about 6 kg for the board. So good weights too, really good weights and strong.
Yeah, it's 5.8 without the pad, I think.
Something like that, yeah. And then there's the 8.8 and they're about
6.2,
6.2, 6.3, something like that.
Yeah, 6.2 with pads, yeah.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah. 4 sizes, 8.2, 8.4, 8.6 and 8.8 and widths 16 and a half, 16 and 3/4, 17, 17 and a quarter and 100, 110, 120 and 130. Yeah.
Wonderful.
This is the one of the Axis paddles. We have 2 sizes. This is the 80 inch. We also have a smaller 70 inch. This one is quite a powerful one. It kind of doesn't look like it by the size of it, but
It's very powerful, I can confirm.
it has 2 shaft sizes. This one's 27. The 70 inch has a 26 mil shaft.
So a bit softer. The 26 is a bit softer than this one. It feels rock solid.
The shaft is a bit different the way it's done. Like a lot of the paddles on the market, they're made with pre-preg carbon and they just roll the carbon around a steel mandrel and then wind it for pressing. This one here is actually made with carbon that's actually braided onto the mandrel. So you have a wall full of carbon threads and they run through like a loom and they get wet out and they actually get woven, braided onto the mandrel. So it makes a very, very strong, stiff pad.
Because you don't have any connection in between.
And we can really control the stiffness of the shaft when we build it. It's shiny down this end. This end here has a slight texture, and the handle has a texture on it as well. So
good grip on it. Yeah. And this is a paddle I don't feel I will break this one. I broke a lot of paddle, and this one is so rock solid. So I have very confidence when I'm out at sea with this paddle not to break it.
You need a reliable paddle when you're out there.
Yes. Having a very light paddle, it's important, but having a reliable paddle is more important. And this one is not the lightest one. It's only 500 grams, so which is quite very light already, but it's very solid. That's very important.
Yep.
Good balance.
Should we do the
fireballs?
Fireballs.
Let's go to the fireballs.
So these ones here, the 880 through to the 1070, they've been out a while and they're kind of well proven and they're working really, really well. I'll explain a few things on the 1000 because that's the one I ride and it's my favorite. Quite low areas on it. It's 1,000 span. We always define our wings by span, and I've always kind of held that the span is perhaps the most important thing to look at. With these newer foils that are more high aspect and higher camber, the area is becoming more and more of a nonsense than they were in the past even. So most of these ones, they sort of start around 13 aspect ratio, and as they get larger, they get more and more high aspect. Key things about them is that these are a higher camber wing compared to the Spitfires or the Art V2s. So I'd like to take the chance to explain camber. So if you cut the wing through here and then looked at it from the end, you'll have the top surface of the wing and you'll have the bottom surface of the wing. The camber line is a line that's exactly halfway between those lines. So it's a curved line. And the higher the camber, the more curved. The flatter it is, the less camber. And it's described as a percentage, and they work that as a percentage of the chord line. The chord line is a dead straight line from the leading edge to the trailing edge. And a 2.5% camber would be 2.5 mils over 100 mils. And this one here is 3.7% camber, so much higher camber, so a higher camber foil is more lift, but it is also more drag. But when you make it a higher aspect, narrower chord, you actually remove some of the drag. So you're kind of going around in circles to achieve the same result. But one of the things that this does really well, and you can see it when you run a simulation on it, is It gives you a really good takeoff speed, but possibly more important than that is when you're downwinding, you can get up on the foil, but you've got to get through to full foiling speed, and it's very, very low drag through that initial acceleration. So it makes it very easy to get up to speed. Also, when you're downwinding and you go really, really slow, it still carries on foiling, and you can pump and recover quite easily from there.
Yeah, the stall is very predictable.
Yeah,
There's a long
it's
stall period.
for a very high aspect wing. It's not a nasty, scary wing to ride. It's that's an easy
Very
wing.
friendly, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've just introduced the larger ones, the 1160, 1250, and 1350. These are much bigger span wings, and I think that it will change the perception of downwinding because there's lighter and lighter conditions that you can relatively easily downwind in now. Another key thing that makes these really good for Axis is that a bigger span wing requires a really stiff mast and really stiff connections.
Yes.
Axis already had all of those, so we can capitalize on that, and these wings work really, really well
It's
for us.
very different to use a high aspect wing on a soft mass and on a stiff mass.
It
It makes
just gets out of control.
something totally different.
Yeah.
So
Yep. While we're talking about these, we should probably talk about some of the rear wings.
yep.
So when we were doing our trip to Maui, we had a bunch of team riders from 95 kg to 60 kg, and they were every single one of them using the 35, the smallest rear in our range. So it became obvious that we should try a smaller one.
Yes.
So we built the 30 as a relatively sensible idea, and while we were doing it, we thought, well, heck, let's just do a 25. The 25 actually turns out to be really good for a lot of riders. The twins that did the Maui race series, they actually used that 880 tiny little wing with the 25 rear. And I actually saw them at Maliko. I saw them paddle that up in flat water, pump out of Maliko Gulch, and then downwind with tiny little wings like that. One of the things I should point out about this is all of our wings from the Spitfire, the Art V2, and the Fireball, they're all a straight median line. So what that means is the center of lift in the foil section is about there. So that section is a dead straight line from one side all the way to the other. It doesn't have any sweep backwards or sweep forwards. It's a straight median line. What that means is that your lift is concentrated on that line, and whether you're going really slowly or really fast, it's lifting from the same place.
Yes.
If you have a wing that's swept back in the tips, as you go faster, the tips create a pitching moment, and it becomes harder to hold down. So consequently, you need a bigger rear and a longer fuselage.
And this one, they are already so much pitch stable that you really don't need to have a big rear wing.
No. And having this just allows you to run faster, less drag. Yeah.
Sure.
It's also kind of like the rear wing and the fuselage is a bolt together preset. So you anticipate what speeds you're going to be doing, and you have an appropriate fuselage and rear to do that.
Yeah.
These ones here, they're set up for when you're absolutely bombing. So on a lighter wind day, smaller bump day, you may not need quite such a small rear.
Sure. But just the size above, not too much with the Fireball. The maximum I put is a 30.
Yeah, relatively sensitive to tune them in. The bigger wings, so the smaller ones, 880, right through the 1070 probably for downwinding. I would recommend a short fuselage for most people. As you get larger, it doesn't hurt to go slightly shorter in the fuselage. With a bigger wing, it's not going to get out of control, and having a slightly shorter fuselage just allows it a bit more freedom to turn. A big wing, it's big span, it can be kind of clumsy, so a shorter fuselage, a smaller rear allows it to turn naturally and comfortably.
I would say the same, short fuse until 1070 and then ultra short, but not shorter than ultra short.
All of these wings here, the Fireballs, because they're so high aspect, we had to build them out of ultra high modulus. We built our test samples out of normal carbon and ultra high modulus, and we couldn't get any of the team riders to ride the normal one twice. You know, the ultra high modules, it performed that much better. And you know, when a wing is quite high aspect and narrow, the stiffness is really, really critical. So it makes them perform a lot better, but they are a little bit more expensive because of that. We also have the P&G V2. This is a relatively recent release, and it's a bit like the Fireballs in as much that it's a similar outline. It has a lot of taper in it, nowhere near as high aspect. This is only 10 aspect ratio, which, you know, it looks kind of low aspect nowadays compared to.
It's a very great wing to learn to downwind.
This is ideal. So this replaces the original P&G 1300 V1, and that foil, so many people got into downwinding and used that as their main wing. Very similar characteristics, very easy to paddle up on, and great to progress on and learn on. Very easy to
Because it
use.
still has a lot of speed for a wing of that size, and that helps a lot to learn to downwind, because you need speed even if you need a very good low end when you are learning, but you still need a bit of speed to follow the bump. So
The old one was relatively fast, but I would
Yeah.
say this actually has a lot better top end.
yeah.
Similar bottom end to paddle up, faster top speed, and with the taper in it, it's a lot more controllable rail to steer, and it doesn't have the turn down in the tips. So when you breach a tip, it doesn't matter. It is fine for breaching. Yeah. All of the Fireballs breach really, really well.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
It kind of covers the Fireballs. I don't think I've missed anything too.
Now we maybe go to the fuselage, because we have a lot of different lengths, and we have some new fuselage. So maybe Adrian, you can.
It's kind of the same old fuselage, but we've just, as we do over time, we make a few modifications to it. So
Fine.
this is the latest ultra short advanced plus fuselage. So things that have changed from the last one is you can see it's got a lot fatter through the front here. What that does is make the join from the mast to the fuselage a lot more solid. It also transfers the power from the front wing to the mast, you know, as rigidly as possible. The back end of the fuselage, it just supports the rear wing, so it doesn't need to be anywhere near as fat. And we've done a lot of thinning on the back of it, and it's quite a thin elliptical shape through there. The idea behind that is that your fuselage is never running dead straight the whole time. Sometimes it's up a little bit, and the water flow will be going sideways over it, or down a bit and going sideways over it. So, and when you're pumping, it's actually going up and down and knifing through the water. And if you take a piece of plastic pipe and you push that through the water, you can feel a lot of drag from that. A square section would be even worse. So because this is made from aluminium, we can make it a beautiful smooth shape and exactly how we want. So it's very refined through the back, and as thin as we can possibly get through the back there, and the rear wing support. So the other thing we've done is we've added a zinc anode to that. That just helps with corrosion over time. The fuselage itself is made out of 6061 marine grade aluminium, and it's actually very resistant to corrosion anyway. One of the worst things with aluminium is that it can't come in contact with carbon. So where the mast fits into here, all of our masts, they're actually built with a glass layer over, which is a protective layer to help so that you don't get corrosion. All of our front wings have a glass protective layer where the fuselage fits in, and the rear wing as well, that has a glass barrier layer for the wing where it sits.
To prevent corrosion.
Yep. So if you try and use it with another mast or another wing, I don't know whether they've actually thought to do that glass barrier, but it's not necessarily compatible, shall we say. Yeah. We have a bunch of different sizes. They've got some crazy names, but basically they go from 700 mils long on the aluminium down to 520 for the smallest one. The smallest one is really well suited to really big wings, to free them up for turning with a really small rear. We have a prototype Fireball that is a 1700 span, and that works really well with the Psycho short fuse and the 25 rear. A really big front wing, again, is super stable and hard to turn, and by shortening the fuselage, making the rear smaller, it allows it to be more usable.
And having a very rigid mast as well.
Yep. Needs a very rigid mast for a big
work.
span wing. So this is the ultra short, and that's, I would say,
Middle
80% of the people would use that. The new fireballs are kind of an exception. The way that they pump in the water is a very flat pump. It's not a big oscillating pump, and so they seem to pair very well with a short fuselage and a size down in rear than perhaps what you'd normally use.
When you get longer fuse, you get also smaller stops usually.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have a greater leverage. So.
For example, I use the 1000 Fireball, but I also use the 999 Art V2. If I'm using the Art V2 for winging, I would use the ultra short fuselage, and I would use a 50 rear, and that kind of feels comfortable and balanced and nice. If I'm using the 1000 Fireball, I use the 700 mil, slightly longer fuselage, and I can quite easily use the 45 or the 40 skinny. Now, I couldn't do that with the Art V2, so that's just the way that those foils work with the foil section and how it works.
Cool. Yeah, glad to know your setup when you go in the water.
That's what works for me. Everybody's different, and I always say with the rear wings that it's kind of a progression. So whatever you're comfortable with today, in a couple of months, there's a fair chance you might want to go a bit smaller.
Yeah.
It's a progression. You go through them. Yeah.
Cool. What else have we got?
We have the FoilDrive mast, the new integrated FoilDrive mast here. So we had a lot of demand to make this mast. When we design it, we try and take the opportunity to completely rethink it from scratch, rather than just tacking something on there. Just think, what does every part do? So right from the base plate, we've made the base plate narrower so that it fits on the unit without overhanging it. It has the bolts on here to bolt it to the base plate, so it's part of it. Obviously the wire is inside of the mast, and we have a carbon plate here, and this is all one unit, so it's very, very clean. We've also shortened this as much as possible so that the mast is, the motor is almost inside the mast, to shorten the wheelbase, make it a quicker turning.
That's very important
setup.
because when you have the motor here, you have a different leverage also to push.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Can't wait to try that one.
Yeah. Not much more to say about that, but it's a very slick unit. It was fun designing and building and thinking through all the bits to make that work nicely.
Cool. And to finish, maybe a little tour of the Art V2.
So the Art V2 is another recent release that we've had, and I guess it's a development that came out of the Spitfire. So compared to the Spitfire, they have more span and less area in the tips. So every wing, when we design it, it has a number. It refers to the second moment of area for roll. And basically, the smaller that number, the easier the wing is to roll from side to side. Mm-hmm. Another way of looking at it is if you had a wing that had a very big paddle shape on the end, it would be very, very hard to turn, and it would have a very high number for second moment of area for roll. So to minimize that, we need to add a little bit of chord in the middle. These are all 10 aspect ratio, which is the same as the first ART. So we've actually made a little more chord in the middle, but a whole lot less in the tip. Compared to the original ART, there's almost no turn down on the tip, so they breach the tip really nicely. The foil section is slightly finer. This one is about 10.5% thick. The original was 11.4, I think. I can't remember actually off the top of my head, but it's a slightly finer, same foil section, but slightly fined out. So characteristics of it works really, really well for winging. If you've got a power source to get up and going, it's fine to get up to speed. The 819 works really well for kite foil, and it works really good for tow. So anything that you've got power to get up and you don't need that super low bottom end, you don't need the fireballs. And these are a lot more playful. The Art 999, it's actually a very similar range to the 1000 Fireball. And if I put two riders doing a downwind run, one on the 999, one on the 1000 Fireball. The guy on the Fireball, he's gone. He's just looking at the horizon. He's bombing. He just wants to get there as fast as he can. The 999, people just carve on it, and they're just looking for bumps to hack turns off.
For wing, when you want to have fun, carve, this is the way to go. When you need more glide and a better pumping, it's a Fireball, which is the way to go.
The Spitfires have been out for a long time now, and I see the three ranges being a very obvious choice. This is kind of a lower, more mid aspect range of wing. The 10 aspect of the Art V2 and the 13 and above for the Fireballs. To me, there's a clear distinction of what they're for and how they fit, and that's our main high performance wings that we have, and they all lead on nicely from when you learn on a BSC or an SES beginner setup. So, as a progression coming off those, the Spitfires,
you have the beginner setup also over there.
Yep. Then the Art V2s and the Fireballs are the speedy, fast ones.
Cool. Let's finish with the mast.
So we have kind of the whole range of masts here at the moment, so it's a convenient way to go through them all. Starting with the aluminium, this is a mast that we've had for a very, very long time. It's 19 millimeters thick. It's very, very stiff for an aluminium mast. It's actually stiffer than a lot of carbon masts out there. We've done quite a bit of work making with the tolerances on the mast and the base plate fitting together now, and it makes a much more rigid connection now, and the doodad fits in there, and that fits into our fuselage and bolts together.
So you refined the mast during the years?
Yep, it's the same mast, but we've just made everything a little bit better.
Yes.
A little bit better with it all.
And this one is very good for a lot of people who can't afford to go to the carbon.
It's great. It's great for the learning intermediate. There's nothing wrong with it for learning on. And it's
I
very,
use
very
it also for pumping. It's very good.
Yeah, very cheap. The only where you'd run into trouble is if you were trying to go way fast. If you tried to race with this, it's 19 mils thick. You're pushing a lot through the water, and
that's the only drawback actually. It's just the thickness.
Yeah, you will get some ventilation.
But
it's not a super fast race mast, but it's solid, affordable, and great for progressing.
And you can change also the middle part quite easily without buying back both parts, so you can change the size as you evolve with the sport.
We've tried to make everything as compatible as possible, so that as you start in the sport and you want to progress, you can buy just a slightly longer mast and step by step actually work your way through what you need. So the next mast up from that is the power carbon, and that comes in two versions. There's a power carbon and there's a power carbon high modulus. This one's made of a normal modulus carbon, and this is a high modulus carbon. The high modulus, they're both about the same weight. In actual fact, the aluminium and these masts, there's not that much difference in weight. The main difference is the stiffness and the response time. So these ones here are both the same shape. They're built out of the same mold. At the base here, where they fit into the doodad, they're 15 millimeters thick. So that's quite a step down from the 19 mil on these. And the same for the high modulus, also 15 mil. A versatile, great mast for people progressing, and it's a carbon mast, but not too outrageously expensive. This is our top of the line mast. This is an ultra high modulus carbon. This is the stiffest by far of all of them, and when you get to the stage where you're on more high performance wings, you can really feel a difference for this sort of mast. This one here is 13.5 mil at the fuselage here, so thinner and finer again. The smaller one, we've introduced a 72 centimeter one, which all the downwind racers have. That's only 12.5 mil in the bottom, so very, very fine and very slippery. The foil section on this is very different to all of the others. It's very, very fine in the leading edge, and it's almost round in the trailing edge. This is a foil section that supposedly it's 20% less drag compared to this, at less than 2 degrees angle of attack, and it does feel pretty slippery. But the weird thing that we kind of hadn't anticipated was by moving the wide point of the mast so far back and having curvature in the back of it, it actually makes it turn quite differently. So I think a lot of masts, we were just thinking them as a support for the fuselage front wing. We weren't thinking of it as something that you're turning with. So that foil section really frees it up. So for wing foil races, when they're going up, when they can take advantage of the lifts and they can work those a lot more easily than they can with a more traditional mast shape. So.
And also on wave, we feel the difference.
Yeah, a lot of the surfers.
In
A lot of the
carving.
surfers really like that mast as well. So
The reduced chord and the profile makes it much more easy to turn. It's like the feeling is a bit if you have get one size lower front wing.
Yep.
Almost.
Yep, that would be true. Less drag through there. We've also, you can see a kind of a noticeable dog leg in the trailing edge there, and that is to reduce the drag in this section, but maximise your stiffness and rigidity in this part of the mast.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Adrian, for
Thanks,
the
Philip.
show.
It's been awesome to spend time with you and Olivia here at the show.
We are very glad
Always
to have
great
you
to catch
here.
up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you.